Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. Or should I say, hola. Welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. I don't know how to say those words in Spanish, but we are here live after WWE's pay per view Backlash. As you can see at the bottom of our screen, that's what we'll be talking about tonight. I'm joined by my co host here, Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
I just watched a pay-per-view that had a lot of really important things for the current WWE, but also a ton of WWE nostalgia. And for their location of tonight's pay-per-view, Backlash was live from San Juan, Puerto Rico. So without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from the premium live event that we just witnessed here?
Top story. Gonna go ahead and throw a bit of a curveball. I typically will pick the main event,
Mm-hmm.
but one thing that just really stuck out to me the entire show was the Puerto Rican crowd. The
Yes.
crowd there in San Juan was just phenomenal, and they
Yes.
were electric all night from the beginning to the end, going completely nuts. And I we saw this with the Montreal crowd, where that really carried a show, which is usually just a throwaway show. In what was it? Gosh, the name of
That
that
was Elimination Chamber.
Elimination Chamber. Yeah, that's usually a throwaway show. You have Backlash, which is think. I mean, you can't think of a classic match from Backlash. That's not ever one that pops up. So, uh, the Puerto Rican crowd, amazing, just energy from them tonight. Dom, what did you think about them?
I thought the crowd was really into the show and they had good reason to. WWE really put forth not only the best of their present talent that could really play to the Puerto Rican crowd, but some of the nostalgia. We saw Savio Vega early here
Hmm.
with Bad Bunny giving him a special Puerto Rican kendo stick. Basically a kendo stick, but with Puerto Rican colors on it. And the crowd loved that backstage vignette. They cheered for Savio Vega being on screen. And then, of course, during the Bad Bunny Damian Priest match, um, we got Carlito. So we got Judgment Day and LW out there, but we got Carlito coming out. Huge pop. And that was a surprise. They hadn't teased Carlito at all. But Carlito, a WWE star from a couple of decades ago. I remember him. He even did the chewing the apple and spitting the apple
I didn't know.
gimmick.
I don't know who this guy was, but I saw him come out. He looked awesome with the huge fro, and then the crowd's going crazy, and he bites the apple, and I was like, "Man, that's an awesome gimmick." That's the best gimmick, I think, one of the best gimmicks I've ever seen. Eating an apple, just that simple, you know. If you're looking for a powerful and intelligent fruit, an apple.
There you go. Right.
Your next time you really need to perform, if you have to have some sort of meeting at work, or if you really need to step your game up here, if you eat an apple, it looks like you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. I don't think a munchie has been that over since the days of the Scooby snack.
Right? Yes. So no, but
Fantastic crowd, but and the WWE played into it. Zelina Vega, Rhea Ripley beats her and should have beaten her. And the match wasn't all that long. It was Rhea winds up winning pretty handily, but Zelina Vega gets a huge cheer. And she's in tears when they're announcing her because the crowd is going crazy.
yeah,
They're insane for Zelina. At one point, she goes out to the ringside where her family is. She gets a flip flop from her mother and throws it at Rhea Ripley, and the crowd goes bonkers because apparently that's a thing.
yeah. Michael Cole mentioned that, and I didn't know what it meant, but you got it. I got it. Okay, they're throwing something.
Apparently, moms throw flip flops at their kids sometimes. So there it was. She threw a flip flop at Rhea Ripley. Uh, Eventually, Rhea does win with a riptide, but then a great thing that WWE does. Rhea Ripley leaves the ring very quickly with her belt and walks out. And that allows Zelina to just kind of get her bearings, stagger to her feet, and just be in the ring all by herself. And the crowd goes crazy for her. They really appreciated seeing her. She was brought up to the WWE main roster with the now LWO members as Legado del Fantasma.
Hmm.
And she was just supposed to be a valet, kind of like rich brats. And instead, they got transformed into the reboot of the LWO. Now they're just working class, Latinos. And boy, they've gotten over with the crowd. And it was especially a good showing to bring them to Puerto Rico like this. Um, but really, we can't ignore what may have been the biggest pop from the Puerto Rico crowd all night and the biggest match. And it was between two stars from Puerto Rico. It was
Yeah.
Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. And I'm gonna ratchet up your lead here. I'm gonna say the lead to WWE Backlash is that Damian Priest is now a megastar. He is
Okay.
ready for whatever push creative wants to give him. It continues this stunning transformation of Judgment Day, which was seemed like this sort of throwaway faction just to put a bunch of misfits that they didn't have anything else to do with, and trying to get them to rub off of Edge's heat at the time. Eventually, they kick Edge out because Edge is retiring for a while. Finn Balor becomes the head of the group, and he had a lot of cachet at the time. But in the last couple of months, the last few months, Judgment Day has given us maybe the biggest heel on the roster in Dominic Mysterio. He is totally over with heel heat, genuine heel heat. It gave us who is now probably the best worker on the women's division, Rhea Ripley, who
Yeah.
once she got a chance to wrestle, not just be this weird misfit ballet, but wrestle again, she's a star. And now tonight, Damian Priest, whatever creative wants to do with this guy going forward and push him, megastar. He loses this match technically, but brilliant.
Yeah.
He was fantastic as a heel, as a stalking heel. I'll shut up in a minute. And I swear, I'm just so excited about Damian Priest and what he did for his career tonight in losing a match to a guy who's not even a wrestler. Like, how amazing was that? He gets ring psychology so well. He's a tremendous athlete. He winds up losing because he sells his knee.
Yeah.
Oh, from the moment he hurt his knee, he sold it crazy. The whole rest of the match, Bad Bunny winds up winning this San Juan street fight. He hits a Canadian destroyer. And if you've ever seen a Canadian destroyer where a guy who doesn't really know how to do a Canadian destroyer does it, it's the guy taking the move who has to do almost all of the work.
Yeah.
And especially Damon Priest as the bigger person, like Bad Bunny's not going to be able to lift him and execute this move. Damian Priest basically executes the move on himself with Bad Bunny just kind of hanging on to take the pin for him. Um, Damian Priest is a star, and for him to do it in his hometown while he's a heel and getting booed, I hope everybody appreciates his performance tonight in front of a very hot Puerto Rico crowd. I hope the Puerto Rico crowd appreciated it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Bad Bunny held his own, meaning that, and I said this to you backstage. Bad Bunny is not a good wrestler. He's not one of like a top wrestler, but he's not bad. Like
No.
he's somewhere in between a solid wrestler and Top Dollar. So Top
Okay.
Dollar is here. Here's your pretty good wrestlers, and then Bad Bunny's right here. Bad Bunny, better than Top Dollar, but not a really great wrestler. But you know, in Puerto Rico, he is clearly a megastar, and
Sure.
I think he's actually a megastar kind of everywhere.
He's a megastar wherever he goes. They were playing that up from the announce booth.
He
He
was
is not only a tremendous music star, but he gets wrestling, and he's interested not just for the cameo. I'll give you a description that's maybe a little more favorable to him than throwing him in the same sentence as Top Dollar. Um, he is Logan Paul with fewer acrobatics, but a better grasp of match psychology.
Yeah.
Like he's a guy who he made full use of the gimmick tonight. It was a San Juan street fight, so he got to use weapons because he shouldn't be going over a real full-time wrestler in a regular match. But the fact that he was using all these weapons and Damian Priest kept saying, "No, I'm not going to use weapons on you. I can beat you without it." So in a sense, Bad Bunny was wrestling heel the whole match, and Damian Priest was wrestling babyface. But don't tell the crowd that because they love Bad Bunny and were cheering to see Damian Priest get his comeuppance. But
Yes.
Bad Bunny, he sold well. He took his bumps. He didn't try to look too strong. He used the weapons to get advantages. Um,
One thing
he
about this match I wanted to mention.
sure,
So when I saw it was going to be a no DQ weapons match, that sometimes can be bad. Like sometimes
yes,
these matches are bad, especially with guys that don't have a lot of experience. So they
Mhm.
get all excited, they grab the weapons, they beat the hell out of each other with the weapons. They don't mean anything, and you see it all the time in hardcore matches. We're in South Jersey. They've got a bunch of mud show matches where people are just laying around in mud and doing blade jobs, and they're just randomly hitting each other with weapons, and it's not good.
No,
But the way that they actually wrestled a bit of a match.
yep.
Then they got the weapons involved. I was like, okay, they're at least following, you know, the order of operations. You should be doing it. The weapon should be a big deal when you grab it. It shouldn't just be like, oh, we have weapons, we use them. So I wanted to give them credit for the whole psychology of it. Absolutely. They wait to, and then they get the weapons. And the second he touches the weapons, the roof blows off the place when Bad Bunny touches the kendo stick.
Mhm.
They don't go too crazy with them till the very end, which is like at the very end, he's smashing him to death with the chair. It's like, well, this is the end. This is when you're supposed to be smashing him to death. Um, and then they do some brawling out in the crowd, and they do the crazy high spot. But with the high spot, there was no foam, there was no crash pad. It was just two guys falling through the table, and I was like, yeah, this is a good high spot.
Very good high spot. Bad Bunny takes it well, and they kept bringing up that these two guys had been friends years ago, and I mean they still must be. For Bad Bunny to be able to do this, he's got to be able to trust the guy he's in the ring with.
Mm,
And so there was a ton on Damian Priest in this match. He not only had to make himself look good, but he had to make a guy who's not really a pro wrestler look good. He had to lead this guy. I'm not going to say carry him because that makes it sound like Bad Bunny didn't do anything. Bad Bunny performed well, but Damian Priest had to lead him around this match. This is the kind of thing that you'd expect a really seasoned veteran to be able to do. This is like Ric Flair leading Sting around the Clash of the Champions 45-minute time minute draw. The old veteran bringing the new guy along. Damian Priest, what a match that he orchestrated, because you figure he had to be calling this match. He had to be putting this match together. They had to work with what Bad Bunny was capable of doing. And they got everything out of Bad Bunny that they could have. So kudos to Bad Bunny for being willing to do this and to perform in a long match, in a grueling match. But man, extra cheers. Damian Priest
yeah.
is a megastar.
Totally agree, and I don't want to cut you off, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the stream here. So,
Sure.
see, we have some people here from Twitch. We have some
Excellent.
viewers. So,
Welcome.
welcome. Uh, this is our post-match show. So we do a show after every WWE SmackDown and after every pay-per-view. Thanks for joining us, and give us some messages, give us some comments if you want to chime in on some of the stuff we're talking about. Don't be shy. We want this to
Do
be.
you think Damian Priest is ready to be a star after tonight's performance?
That's our question to you, people. So I'll tell you what. The fact that Damian Priest was able to put this together and make a really good match with Bad Bunny. I'm not going to say great, but a very good match with Bad Bunny. Even if they weren't in Puerto Rico, I think it would have went over pretty well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Priest, yeah, give him his
I'll
flowers.
say it. It was a great match
Yeah,
because the gimmick helped them where it was supposed to help them,
Mhm.
but it wasn't overpowering. And I think that's because Damian Priest refused to use the weapons.
Mhm.
It wasn't until Bad Bunny went chasing after him up the ramp with the trash can that Damian Priest kicked the trash can into Bad Bunny's face. Like, your fault for running after a guy with a trash can in front of your head.
Yeah.
You know? So Damian Priest really didn't use it until then. So just brilliant moves all the way around, putting the match together, then having to execute it while it was going on. This was not a short match. This was a
Wow.
long match, and it had the most nostalgia. It had the most for the crowd to sink their teeth into, not only for the present, but for, remembering Puerto Rico's recent history of wrestling. Uh, so much here for the crowd, and they didn't rush it.
Mhm.
This match took exactly as long as it should have gone, and it needed to go. Match of the night, Damian Priest is a star.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, yeah, that was well, that's funny you say that's your match of the night. I actually have a different one.
Sure,
But
go for it. Go
but,
for it.
yeah, so we kinda started off with the lead here. We talked about Puerto Rico, how great they were, and honestly, the entire show was very good. This is probably the best
Yeah,
pay-per-view I've seen for WWE.
no
Uh,
weak matches.
no weak matches. Um, Gotta give, Priest specifically his flowers here, and then Bad Bunny, kudos for being super famous, so you're way over, and also having a good sense of how pro wrestling works and going with the flow and letting the ring general take you around. So he did a
Mhm.
great job with that.
Bad Bunny has plenty of money. He did not have to take this beating tonight,
Uh,
but
and,
he did.
and he most certainly took a beating, you know?
Yeah, I mean, pro wrestling is real, man. You could say the matches are scripted, but when you hit a mat, you hit a mat.
But so I think my match of the night, and I would have never thought in a million years that this would be even a good match.
Okay?
Bianca Belair versus Io.
Io Sky, the opener.
I
Wasn't that
could
fun?
I couldn't believe, first of all, how good the match was, but second of all, the response to Io. The
Yes.
crowd was going ballistic for her. And I'm gonna just say I already said it already, but like they were acting like she's Hulk Hogan, and it was the
Yeah.
'80s. You
Yeah.
know, they were going nuts for her, and I don't know why. Um, but
Perhaps her luchador style. She's a high flyer.
yeah, so she goes out there, and maybe I'm giving it the match tonight because I was like, okay, this is the opener. I could probably chill out here. And then suddenly I'm watching, I'm like, wow, this is they're killing it. So even given the opportunity though, when the crowd's over, she's not in some wonky tag match on SmackDown. She's a
Mhm.
singles match with Bianca Belair. She was fantastic. And
Yeah.
Belair is can I would say consistently the best female worker on the roster is Bianca Belair. Just from the stuff I've seen with her, like her physical capabilities are up there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, she can go. She's the longest
mm,
reigning Raw Women's Champion at this point.
and
They
it
announced tonight. Yeah.
was so cool because Io's supposed to be the heel, dead set heel, and
Oh,
Bianca Belair is supposed to be the face. She's been the face for. She's a playful person, comes out and plays with her hair, and she has little
yeah.
girls come out with her. She's getting booed out of the stadium, Bianca
Yes.
Belair. And anytime she did anything, the crowd was all over her. And then
Mhm.
anytime Io did anything, they were freaking out. This was a good, hard hitting, stiff match. We had side headlocks, takedowns, which are
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Side headlock takedown, the crowd was going nuts. It was like,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
I'm going nuts too. I love a side headlock takedown,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
So we don't have to have all that stuff. I think it was really well put together. There was one dive, but the dive was at a time when it made sense, which is toward the end of the match. It wasn't just dives to do dives.
Sure.
There was a match tonight where they were doing dives to do dives, and that always bugs me. But what?
I want to ask you a detail about this match.
Mhm.
They send out Io Sky by herself without the rest of Damage Control. No Bailey, no Dakota Kai. Were they almost asking the Puerto Rico crowd to cheer for her? Because if Bailey and Dakota Kai come out, they're a heel faction. It's 3-on-1. Obviously, they're going to boo. But they send Io Sky out there alone, and the crowd just appreciates what she can do in the ring.
I I don't know how you could have predicted that. And I'd have to look more into the
Happy
background.
accident.
Happy accident.
Happy
Yeah.
accident that they sent her out there by herself, and so the crowd wasn't like drilled into the, oh, we're supposed to boo them. They're a heel faction and they're ganging up on Bianca.
And you've talked highly about this faction, Damage Control.
Yep.
And I think tonight was the night where they gave them one shot. They have a singles match. They don't have some weird tag match where or they're shifting brands all the time. So you see them a little bit on SmackDown, see them a little bit on Raw. They gave her a shot, and hey, she wasn't with the company last year. She was fired, and then they brought her back in, and that's why she's in Damage Control. And quite frankly, yeah, I know that's a little inside baseball for you.
Okay, very good. I like it.
So she delivered. She really did.
I want to tell you why this is not my match of the night. The first 90% was awesome. The last 10%, I hated. Once Bailey and Dakota Kai came down to the ring, I was like, oh, for crying out loud. And maybe the purpose of this match was, and there was one other like this later we'll talk about. Maybe the purpose of this match was just to show us some tension in Damage Control. Like maybe Damage Control came down and cost Io Sky the match. Bailey did try to interfere by holding Bianca down by her hair, but the ref saw it, and that delay caused Io Sky to miss the moonsault. And then Bianca springs up, hits the kiss of death, and gets the pin. You know, I understand why WWE did this, but the first 90% of the match was so good. I wanted that to just have a clean finish.
Exactly.
Because like you're saying, like before Bailey and Dakota Kai came out, there's like, oh my goodness, they put this match on first. It's fantastic. It wasn't quite as good as Bianca versus Asuka at WrestleMania 39 that we just saw.
Yeah.
But it was close. It was definitely better than Bianca Alexa Bliss with the Uncle Howdy stuff at the end of it from Royal Rumble.
Yes, it was better than that.
It was yeah, it was way better than that. But like it was Bianca Asuka, Bianca Io Sky. It was there, and then the end, and it was like, okay. Now I can definitely see daylight. But before that, it was close to Bianca Asuka, which was a great match at WrestleMania.
If it was a clean finish and Bianca went over, I'd say that one was the winner. And really, it's because the crowd carried it, which is so interesting, right? You have these two offshoot pay-per-views. Then they do one in Los Angeles, and the crowd sucks. I mean, the crowd is just like, during the whole thing. I'd say they're at least, they're okay, you know? But the location, it's Los Angeles. You've got the big stadium.
That's the key, the size, maybe.
Yeah.
This and Montreal were intimate pay-per-views. They were normal size SmackDown or Raw arenas. The crowd was close. It was also a closed venue. I mean, they were right on top of them. They were into it the whole time. Yeah.
I mean, this is the first WWE show in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
17 years, they said.
This is a mainstay. This has to happen again.
Yeah.
Montreal and San Juan, they're better than regular pay-per-views. Right. They've been better than the big shows that we've watched, the Royal Rumbles, WrestleMania. So
put them in the rotation for one of these minor pay-per-views, maybe every couple of years.
Yeah. San Juan, Puerto Rico always gets Backlash, and then Montreal always gets one of them. You know,
right around WrestleMania, and wasn't it interesting that Montreal and San Juan got the minor pay-per-views right around WrestleMania, and I think really enhanced the whole WrestleMania season.
Yeah,
like this has been a great WrestleMania season. Not only the run up to WrestleMania, but the aftermath, which is what Backlash is supposed to take care of. And I think the quality of the wrestling at Elimination Chamber and tonight at Backlash, and the crowd response at each of the two venues really made this such a great WrestleMania season.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it worked, and it's happy. It's great that it worked. I do want to say one more thing about this show tonight, and then we can go on to another match.
Okay.
I do want to say one thing about the show. It started at 8, not including the pre-show. It started at 8,
Yep.
ended at 11.
Yep.
3 hours. Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect.
They got 7 matches in. They did not wait. They did not waste a lot of time between matches, which was
No.
great.
Mm-hmm.
Not having cages or things like that helped. There
Mm.
wasn't a lot of setup and stage production that had to be done mid-show. It was basically clearing all the weapons out of the place after the San Juan street fight. But yeah, they kept this pay-per-view moving. When matches didn't have to be too long, they weren't. Rhea versus Zelina was not a long match. It did not have to be. They
Yeah.
did what they needed to do. The crowd loved it. Rhea went over as she should have, but Zelina showed enough to get a well-deserved cheer. Seth Rollins versus Omos did not have to be a long match, but it was really cool, I think. I think it was a better match from Omos than I was expecting. But that match went as long as it had to. Bianca Belair and Io Sky, it went well for the amount of time they gave it. It actually left me wanting more. So, and then the main event went 10 minutes. Cody and Brock, 10 minutes.
Which takes me to my next point here. We had Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar in the main event. And this
Yes.
would typically have been the lead that we're talking about.
Yep.
But I think the whole show was good, and we're kind of touching on all the matches. But our main event tonight was Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Cody Rhodes beats Brock Lesnar in about 10 minutes.
Yep.
Reverses a hold that Brock
Kimura
has.
arm lock, yeah.
It's an arm lock that Brock has on him and pins him.
Yep.
What did you think of this match, and what did you think of the finish?
I like the finish because it's one of those things where Cody's the smaller wrestler, the quicker wrestler, probably considered the more cerebral wrestler. Although Brock's a decorated combat athlete, so he's a smart guy too. And Cody kind of escapes like the underdog should. It wasn't like he stole one. I mean, it's a good counter. Brock cinches in that Kimura arm lock, and it's the kind of move that you cinch in, especially if you're the bigger man. You're kind of on the mat, and you've got your opponent sort of on top of you as you're trying to bend his arm back under him. And so Cody plays into that, shifts his weight, and just keeps rolling Brock over onto Brock's shoulders. 1, 2, 3. Brock can't get out of that without breaking the Kimura armbar himself. He wouldn't do it. He gets counted out, then finally breaks the hold. Cody slides out of the ring. So there's Brock bloodied and in the ring, and clearly not, bloodied, but not really beaten down. I mean, the blood, we'll get into why the blood happened. It was a neat spot, but Cody took a beating in this match, but at the end, he was just smart enough and just strong enough to kind of use Brock's aggressiveness against him.
I'm cool.
Great finish, I thought.
Yeah, I'm cool with the finish too. And it might just be Gunter's style rubbing off on other people, right? Because they're watching what he's doing, and you never know how he's going to finish a match. So anything can happen at any point. So it wasn't him doing the Cody Rhodes. What is that called? The neck breaker.
The crossroads is the twisting neck breaker.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the Cody cutter. He hit all of these on Brock, but it didn't get him the win.
Yeah, but I like it because it's real wrestling too. Like Brock's taking a risk here by laying on his back with this armbar, and then he just bridges up. Bang! When he bridges up, he's got him for the pin, and that's it. That's wrestling. That happens all the time in wrestling. So
sure, right?
That's real wrestling. You got
two guys with amateur wrestling backgrounds.
In amateur wrestling, it happens all the time. We would call it "you got caught." If you're doing a move and you can catch them. Meaning that, like, if you catch somebody, they're doing a move and they're kind of asleep, but they're not realizing it's going to happen, and you can put them
Mhm.
on their back. Um, you know, if people would throw legs on you and they're on top, you can pivot up, grab their head, and then get them over on their back, and that's what you would call like you caught him because
Sure, Snapmare Takeover. Yeah.
and he didn't even know it was gonna come. So anyway,
There are a lot of moves in pro wrestling that come from combat sports and martial arts and things like wrestling. A lot of them are defensive maneuvers, things like hip tosses, arm drags,
yeah,
snapmares. There are things where you use your opponent's momentum against them. You use your
exactly,
opponent's positioning, and like it looks like your opponent has the superior position. Use it against them.
yeah,
Used his aggressiveness against him. And yeah, it's cool to see. I don't have the amateur wrestling background. You do. It's I appreciate it too, and I'm glad
mm,
you brought it up because it is neat to see that these guys can wrestle,
mhm,
especially like in a Brock Lesnar match. He should be doing this. He's a legit mixed martial arts wrestler. He's a legit amateur wrestler. He's really accomplished it at these kind of things.
yeah. So I'd like to finish. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about the spot with the blood everywhere? I was shocked to see that actually, to see Lesnar bleeding like a stuffed pig.
Cody's reaching for the top turnbuckle as Brock grabs him around the waist and does a release German suplex. Well, the turnbuckle pad comes off in Cody's hands. So there goes Cody flying across the ring with the turnbuckle pad in his hands.
Mhm.
Cody hits. The turnbuckle flies out of his hands, clear out of the ring into the crowd. But now the top turnbuckle in one corner is exposed. Um, Brock charges at Cody in the corner. Cody ducks and drop toe holds Brock face first into that exposed turnbuckle. And now Brock is bleeding from like a bridge of his nose area, forehead. You really couldn't tell after a while because his face was just covered. So, like, I don't know where that puncture actually is. It was somewhere up along the face, and they did it so that it occurred when he hit that exposed turnbuckle. Um, yeah, and Brock's bleeding the whole rest of the match. And, it looked fantastic. It made Brock look extra vulnerable because obviously he's the stronger guy in this match. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's got the weight advantage, the reach advantage, the height advantage, all that stuff. But he looks vulnerable. And there's a time there where now you've got Brock's blood on Cody, and like Cody's looking at like it's some sort of war paint or something. He's like slapping his chest and stuff. You know, so there's a little extra there. But it played into the match. It was neat. Like the turnbuckle pad accidentally comes off because Brock threw Cody across the ring.
Yeah. Have you seen a lot of Brock Lesnar matches?
Not a lot. And the problem is the matches you're seeing. I do know this from seeing at least some of his matches like 20 years ago. Is the Brock you're seeing now is not the Brock from his prime. The
Mhm.
Brock you're seeing now is almost a caricature of himself. He's just out there to do German suplexes, and really that's it. In fact, the crowd starts chanting for it. Suplex City, and Brock like visibly acknowledges it when they zoom in on him and then starts doing it. He's almost a character of himself now. But at one time, Brock Lesnar was one of the elite in-ring performers in the WWE or anywhere in pro wrestling. I do know that.
Yeah. He
Is that fair or not? Like, am I too harsh on the current Brock?
No, no,
Okay.
you're exactly right because I was curious if you had seen him. All of his matches are like this, where
Now,
it's him getting the German suplex, and then he starts doing the suplexes, and the crowd starts counting, and he keeps doing it, and then he does the F5s, the F5s. He did it
mm,
with Roman like 3, 4 times in their championship matches. This is his gimmick. Um, so that's the style he's always going to wrestle, and that's what he always does. So, um,
that's why the Kimura arm lock was neat to see at the end.
mhm. um, he's got such a realism to himself when he comes
Yeah.
out that it always just kind of feels like a fight every
Sure.
time. and not a lot of guys have that, or not a lot of guys do it to that level where
No.
it feels like a big fight whenever he comes out. So I do like him, and I've liked his stuff. And this was a solid match, and interesting to
Does,
see what. Mhm.
I was gonna say, does WWE now being merged with UFC, do things like this now make more sense for the overall brand? Like showcase some of these guys who have a combat sports background more, who have a maybe an amateur wrestling background or mixed martial arts. Makes more sense. I don't know. Is there some sort of cross promotion that can happen here? Because Brock Lesnar's he's a superstar in both worlds.
Mhm. I bet they're really gonna position Brock way up at the top still. Um, that's why they wanted him to wrestle Cody abruptly and want him
Okay.
back at the top.
Okay.
Um, I almost thought Brock might win tonight. That's how much I thought they thought of Brock, because Brock's a guy with Vince back in the picture. He was not. He was out of the picture. Brock was about to quit himself. He's freaking
Hmm.
out because Vince left. Vince loves Brock, and he's now associated with UFC, and the UFC loves Brock. So, yes, I'm sure there's some whispers to the creative team like, "Hey, keep this guy up top." Who knows
Sure.
if he ever comes back for another UFC fight? They'll freak out.
If it's time to pivot to another match, let's talk about another guy who may benefit from that. Bobby Lashley has somewhat of an MMA background too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley involved in a triple threat uh, match tonight for the U.S. Championship. Austin Theory retains in the triple threat against Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed here. Bobby Lashley, a guy who the WWE they don't let him win, but they also don't want him to lose. They want him to keep being in weird matches. He's in. This is not the first. We've been back to watching WWE for less than a year. This is not the first time we've seen Bobby Lashley in a triple threat match where he manages not to win and not to lose at the same time. He's in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania, where he's kind of winning, but it's a battle royal. He beats Brock at Elimination Chamber, but it's because Brock got disqualified. Bobby Lashley, he's like even Steven. He doesn't win, he doesn't lose. He just keeps breaking even. But
Yeah.
is Bobby Lashley the kind of guy who maybe they want to, crap or get off the pot with?
Well, from the looks of tonight, I don't think they're doing either.
No, they're still on the fence.
I still think they're on that fence. I don't think they're crapping or getting off the pot. I think they're secured on the pot. But yeah, he. That's an interesting point. He's been in a lot of weird stuff, and he's been a victim of circumstance because he was supposed to wrestle Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt is question mark
Yes.
in the WWE, not in the WWE. So they gave him the Battle Royal win, so he had to get that. He's been involved with all these U.S. title matches, and they don't want Austin Theory to win, or they don't want to take it off Austin Theory, but they want Bobby Lashley to look good, so they keep him
Yes.
strong. So I don't know if Bobby Lashley is eventually going to take it from uh, Austin Theory eventually when it's not. But the WWE, to their credit, has done a good job of just keeping him strong enough, and they also are keeping when somebody wins the belt, they make him strong. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Tonight's match, the finishes. Um, Austin Theory, really impressive. The biggest man of the match is Bronson Reed. Um, heavy, thick guy, but can move, has the lower center of gravity. So he's not just a big lumber guy. He can move. Austin Theory gets him up on his shoulders, fireman carry like he's going for his A-Town down finishing maneuver. But Bronson Reed slithers out and power slams Theory off of an Irish whip. Sorry, they did an Irish whip. Um, but Bronson Reed then misses a moonsault. He gets a little greedy, And as he bounces off the ring, he gets speared by a recovering Bobby Lashley. But Austin Theory, the opportunistic heel, as Lashley's knocking out the cobwebs after delivering the spear, Theory throws him out of the ring, slides over, and has just enough time to pick up the pin on Bronson Reed. So there's Bobby Lashley doing the hard work, and Austin Theory gets the win for it. Yeah. So, Austin Theory's a tough guy for me to get a handle on. He's keeping the belt, but it's always with an asterisk. And, until you realize that, well, that's the Roman Reigns formula they've been using for as long as we've been watching, is Roman Reigns keeps winning matches with an asterisk on it. So maybe that's the heel formula now in the WWE is, heel champions, they get to keep winning as long as they don't win clean.
Yeah. Right?
What about anybody in this match? We don't see a lot of them on SmackDown, although we're going to now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of any of these guys here?
So, sorry, anybody on SmackDown?
These guys that we don't see on SmackDown a lot, that we supposedly are going to see them starting this week after the draft. But we don't see a lot of Bobby Lashley. We don't see a lot of Bronson Reed on SmackDown. We don't see a lot of Austin Theory. But rumor has it Bobby Lashley's coming to SmackDown. Austin Theory's coming to SmackDown. What do you think of these guys? Are you excited to see more of them?
Well, I'll just bite my tongue. I'll accept what happened. Feature's gone, and that's just very disappointing. But I have heard very good things about Austin Theory. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he can fill that void. I've always liked Bobby Lashley. Just a giant man that can wrestle, and just a legit badass is the way I would put him,
If they get Bobby Lashley out of this U.S. title, broken record that he seems to be in, mm-hmm. Is he a babyface challenger to Roman Reigns now on SmackDown? Could he be built up for something? Because the entire bloodline's on SmackDown.
It feels like if it's not Sammy, Kevin,
they're on Raw.
If it's not Sammy, they're on Raw.
They're on Raw. Sammy, Cody, Kevin Owens, they're all on Raw.
Mm. Well, your top babyface, let's see here. Who's your top babyface on SmackDown now? Bobby Lashley?
A returning Edge?
I don't want Edge's old ass. Get beat by Roman Reigns. It might be that. It might be Edge versus Roman Reigns, and I don't know. We'll see. Is Edge still got gas in the tank? Is a real question.
Mm-hmm. It may be Bobby Lashley. That may be the guy.
Mm-hmm. It might be. It might have to be.
Unless they're going to do something, and maybe this is our pivot into this match. The end of the 6-man tag tonight, they're teasing tension in the bloodline.
Yeah.
The entire bloodline is staying on SmackDown. They all got drafted to SmackDown eventually, even though they split them up into 2 different picks.
Did we talk about this match?
We did not talk too much about it yet.
Let's jump into this one.
Solo Sikoa spikes Matt Riddle for the win after blind tagging himself in. Matt Riddle thought he was putting away one of the Uso brothers. Nope. The legal man was Solo Sikoa, who sneaks up on it from behind, Samoan Spike for the win. And then as they're just standing in the ring afterwards, they were teasing this the whole match as well. There's some tension between Solo Sikoa and the Uso brothers, Jimmy and Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Now they managed to win, and it's like the send-off. This may be the end of this storyline. Sammy and Kevin Owens get drafted to Raw along with Matt Riddle. They're on Raw now. The Usos get drafted to SmackDown to join Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa, and Roman Reigns, who were the number 1 draft pick for SmackDown. So they're all on SmackDown now. So the bloodline has to move forward without the crutch of Sammy.
Yeah.
Let's see where it goes. And it looks like this, even though the bloodline goes over here, they're teasing cracks in the bloodline. So if it's not going to be someone like Bobby Lashley becoming a big baby face or Edge somehow regaining the magic, it looks like the challenge to Roman Reigns is going to be main event Jey Uso. Is that what they're building here? I mean, does it have to happen eventually?
Yeah. Um, it could be main event Jay. It could be. I guess they're just going away with the Sami Zayn Roman Reigns thing, which seems like a missed opportunity. And is Cody on Raw
Cody's on Raw?
and Roman Reigns is on SmackDown? So they're
No.
just dropping that whole thing. They're like, Cody didn't win the belt. He didn't finish the story. Move on. And you've got that, and you've got you've got Sami
Drew
Zayn.
McIntyre, Seth Rollins, they're all on Raw.
Sami Zayn, that's over too. Okay.
But they've teased this that because KO and Sammy are the unified tag team champions, they have both the SmackDown and Raw belts. They are eligible as long as they keep both sets of belts to jump back and forth in programs. But I just don't think there's much left. I don't think there's as much left in the Sami Zayn versus the Bloodline angle as there is in Jay having a legit beef with maybe Solo and Roman now. I think that's maybe a fresher angle, and there may be more to do there.
Yeah, you're right. There's more to do with that. And I thought the match tonight was probably the worst one yet on the card. And by worst one, I mean we've seen it a bunch on SmackDown. We've seen them fight, have all kinds of matches. The crowd was not into it when they
No.
came out, which is interesting because Io Sky was over as hell. Like the LWO was like wildly over the LWO, and when this match came out, these are their top guys, and nobody seemed to really care. But
Sammy was over. They gave him the Olay. They gave him the Olay chant.
Sammy was over. Like I think they were tired from the last match because it was the Bad Bunny match, so they
Yes.
were tired. But they picked back up, so I was a little worried about this match. But then they started to have the little bloodline dispute between the two of the guys,
Mm-hmm.
and between Jay Uso and Solo. So Jay and Solo, when they were kind of at each other's throats, I was like, "This is the bloodline I love. They can just keep doing this." This is like the best male drama soap opera out there.
Sure.
This team here. So all in all, I thought it picked up a lot more once Solo and Jay started to go after each other. And, Matt Riddle's just a chump that takes the pin. Kind of makes sense.
In this one, yeah, he had to take the pin. He still looks a little weird to me out there in the match like this. Like KO and Sammy, like they're dressed in the either the big trunks and the boots, and KO still wears the t-shirt,
He
and
looked like Schlub.
Sammy's got the full pants with the boots, and Riddle comes out there, he's wearing the trunks. That's it. No knee pads, no shoes. He doesn't even do the Solo Sikoa where he wears the ankle and heel and arch of the foot guards, and then the knee pads and everything, which you would expect a guy who strikes with his legs to do. Matt Riddle strikes with his legs. He's he's like the guy in baseball who gets up there to bat without any batting gloves or any armor on the elbow or anything. He's just hands and naked on the bat handle.
He does two things that maniacs do, which is
Okay.
no knee pads, no shoes. So that's one where he's like, whoa, he's a badass. He's not even wearing knee pads. He's not wearing shoes. Like that's so hard on your knees and feet for no reason outside of it makes you look crazy. And then the second thing he does is he does so many throws and slams, and he's got a great amateur wrestling background. He was 5-0 in the UFC, but his gimmick is so dopey, and he's supposed to be a stoner that you're like, oh, he should be just a complete badass, and that's it. But his gimmick is like, bro, comedy
Yep.
guy, and he's kicking his like flip flops off, and he's like, oh, I'm high, 420, bro. Like,
Yeah.
that's what his gimmick is.
But he has the talent to be something else if they ever decide to go in a different direction with him.
Yeah, I you could tell that faction wasn't gonna last for long because they didn't even change his gear at any point. Like, it wasn't even like he went and was like, why don't you get like a T-shirt with some duct tape on it, or whatever. Just do what they do. Like, just wear some sweatpants when you go out there. Like,
Sure. Looked like he just rolled off a nap on the couch.
yeah, nap on. Yeah, like that would have been a good segment when they're
And
hanging.
that fits your stoner mentality. I mean, just,
Right. Then so there. Then your gimmick matches the gear, because right now the gear doesn't match the gimmick. Makes no
No.
sense.
No.
you know. So, yes.
This was a pretty long match. This one got very spot festy for me. This was, I think, the only time I actually wrote the word spot festy,
Yeah.
which is my way of saying, we're veering off here into Dom's not gonna like this. It's getting too spot festy. Like, I can see guys maybe exchanging right hands at some point, but guys exchanging super kicks.
Super kicks that didn't need to happen, because we were just trying to get this match over with. The
I
only
mean,
thing that was notable about the match was the dispute between the two.
yep.
We've seen
The
these guys.
tension in the bloodline and the fact that they got a pin on Matt Riddle.
Yeah, we're just trying to see the main event. It's getting late, so why don't you boys wrap it up here? Cool. Let's think here. We talked about the main. We talked about the second.
Omos versus Seth Rollins. Were you surprised that Omos put together this entertaining of a match? Because we already said that there wasn't a bad match in the pay-per-view that we saw.
Yes, I mean,
me too.
I'm not gonna lie. He didn't make any mistakes, and I've got my pen ready, and I'm ready to write the notes. I'm ready to say he screwed this up or he did this, but he didn't do much, but he held his own, much like Bad Bunny. He was like, he wasn't good, it wasn't great, but he didn't screw anything up. And a lot of the stuff Rollins was doing made sense. You chop down the giant, you get him down. The way he was working with him made sense. He did some thing where he did a spinning DDT on Amos, and it made sense that he did it because it's very easy for him to take. So he was doing moves to Amos that weren't too complicated.
Sure.
I saw a match years ago, and it was AJ Styles versus, and this guy is no longer with the WWE. He's a wacko. His name was Enzo Amore, and he had like a Jersey Shore Italian gimmick.
Okay.
Like, how you doing? And he would dance a lot, and he had like one-liners, but at the wazoo, and he was pretty good on the mic, just being a buffoon, and firing the crowd up. But when he got in the ring, he was horrific. So he had a big match in a pay-per-view, and a guy went to throw him out, and he didn't know how to get thrown out, and he smashed his head and got a concussion. He had to get carted off, and they ended the match. So like that's how bad he was. So anyways, AJ Styles wrestles Enzo Amore, and I paid attention to the different moves that AJ Styles was doing with them, and they're just basically like Enzo Amore sits on the top rope, AJ Styles goes up to get him, and AJ Styles pushes off and does a face bump as if though Enzo did it to him, but he and takes the face bump, and it's just like, okay, I'll do everything for your offensive maneuver. You can't do anything.
I will do my offense. I will also do your offense.
Yes, you don't screw this up. Exactly.
I'm
So
going to give Omos a little more credit than that. Omos worked well as a heel and as a monster in this match. He got his offense in very good. I mean, you mentioned the dives. Rollins did a dive onto Omos, and Omos stayed on his feet. Good. Omos is 400 pounds, outweighs him by, it's almost double Seth Rollins' weight. Good. Omos stays on his feet. So Rollins slides back into the ring, dives again, but Omos catches him. Yeah, good. Other things back in the ring, like Omos blocks a pedigree by just backdropping Seth Rollins from his knees.
yeah,
Executes a back body drop from his knees. Looks fantastic. Rollins finally has to do these quick hitting things. You mentioned he grabs Omos and pulls him down so that Omos's head, because he's so tall, doesn't hit the top turnbuckle. It hits the top of the ring post. That leads to the tornado DDT you mentioned. Great move. Omos takes it fantastically. And after Rollins then hits a top turn splash, he goes for a cover. Omos kicks out in one by throwing Rollins off of him. Great monster heel move, not kicking out barely at two, throwing the guy, launching Seth Rollins into the air at one. Good monster heel move. Rollins going for his what do you call it? The stomps. Goes for it the first time. Omos doesn't budge.
mm-hmm.
Look at Rollins just standing there with his foot on top of Omos's neck as Omos starts looking up at him. Then Omos choke slams him, but Rollins kicks out at 2.5. Eventually, Rollins hits 2 stomps. Omos kicks out at 2. So then we get the finish here, and it was the kind of thing that you would have to do to a guy who's a monster heel. Rollins goes to the top turnbuckle, and as Omos is staggering out after kicking out of the 2 curb stomps at 2, Rollins stomps him from the top rope. And at this point, Omos is back to a vertical base. And he's a pretty tall guy, but he's still kind of hunched over. Rollins catches him back of the neck, and Omos takes this bump brilliantly.
Yeah.
Because this is the kind of thing that Rollins could get terribly hurt on. Because when he contacts Omos on the back of the neck, Rollins' left foot hasn't hit the mat yet. Normally on the stomp, he's just bracing himself against his plant leg. And then it's a real gentle, go down with me and I'll just have my foot on top of your neck. This was Rollins catching him as Omos is now, vertical base, hunched over, so he's not his full 7'3", but he's still 6 feet off the ground. And perfect timing. Once that foot hits Omos's back of his neck, he drops. For a big man who you don't expect to be that agile, he takes this bump brilliantly. Rollins gets the pinfall. I wrote after this, Omos worked well as a heel and as a monster, and then I wrote good match because I wasn't expecting that.
No. I agree. Amos was good, and these are back-to-back matches where he's looked good, and he looks
even though he lost to Brock at WrestleMania, but he was tossing Brock around the ring.
They're the 2 top guys in the company, two of the top 4 or 5 guys in the company that he lost to. That's no big deal. He's lucky to be in the company after some of his earlier performances because they were not good. So
really, okay. So
yeah.
They stuck with him, and maybe some of the other top talent is helping him because Seth Rollins wrestled a great match.
Yep.
He's the David versus the Goliath, and he wrestled that style. You could see it in his face. The ring psychology was there. The timing was there. So good for Seth Rollins. This is 2 pay-per-views in a row he's gotten a win after kind of putting guys over previously. So good for him.
Did he beat Logan Paul?
Beat Logan Paul at WrestleMania, yes.
Interesting. Well, Dom,
that's our card. I liked it. And anything not good here? There really was not a lot of filler. There were not a lot of weird vignettes. Everything that was a backstage something or other led later into the program, like Savio Vega.
Listen, here's what I would say. Just start being creative and having pay-per-views in different cities that are a little outside the box that maybe you don't think are going to be good and you give it a whirl. But this was a home run. And Puerto
Mhm.
Rico should have a pay-per-view every year. Montreal should have a pay-per-view every year. No
Mhm.
questions asked. They're a fantastic crowd. And because of that, it elevates the whole show. Like if all these matches happened and it was in, and I remember a SmackDown we watched was in like somewhere in the middle of Connecticut. I forget the name of the
Yeah,
town.
right.
It was somewhere in the middle of Connecticut, and they had to pump the noise in, and everybody's sitting around bored. And when you have that, and that could have easily happened with tonight's card. It was not knocking your socks off, right? There
No.
wasn't anything on there that was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Mhm.
So just keep do I would love to see for them to see them keep rewarding these cities that have great turnouts like this. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm probably going to make a video about the Puerto Rican crowd. Um,
Sure.
and I threw some theories out there. I was watching with my wife, and I said, I saw that there's not a lot of kids in the crowd. Like, I felt like it was a lot of adults and a lot of men
Hmm.
and women, like adult men and women that were going crazy. And I'm like, I wonder if they were all a little sauced up. Like, I don't know much about Puerto Rican culture, but I know that like US culture. If you go to like an Eagles game in Philadelphia, guess what? So I don't know if there was a a little bit of liquid courage from the fans or a liquid energy, if you will, if they were drinking rum in the parking lot before they came in and they were all fired up. But whatever
It
it
was a
was,
2-day party. They did a SmackDown on Friday from San Juan. It looked like the same arena too, with the same setup. And then
mhm,
the pay-per-view tonight, the Backlash pay-per-view. San Juan, Puerto Rico, economically depressed compared to the mainland U.S. So
for sure.
a show like this, a pay-per-view like this in a smaller venue in Puerto Rico, probably not the biggest gate for the WWE as far as the live take from tickets, but man, it looked great on TV and it sounded great on TV. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, if you could do this every once in a while, what a great show and a very efficient show. They got 7 good matches in. Nothing ran longer than it was supposed to. You weren't like looking at your watch at any point and going, man, this match should have been over 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes ago. This
hey,
was an efficient pay per view, 7 matches in about 3 hours.
if I'm a huge wrestling fan, or I'm one of these guys that loves to go to live shows and I'll go to the WrestleMania down in New Orleans, or I'll go to certain matches. This would be a destination for a mat location for
Sure.
someone that loves pro wrestling to go to Puerto Rico and watch this pay per view with the
This
way
was
the
the length of a Raw. This was the length of a Monday Night Raw.
crowd.
When was the last time a Monday Night Raw had 7 great matches? I know we don't watch regularly, but I see clips and reports every now and then from Raw. I mean, people are trashing the show that how slow moving it is, and how much talking there is, and how much there's not very very much in the way of in ring real good performances. This was an efficient show with a lot of good action. I liked it.
Absolutely. Well, Dom, pretty late for us.
Little
Anything?
past midnight here in Jersey.
Yeah, pretty late for us. Not as late as I thought it was going to be. I thought
Yeah.
I was really, really concerned. I was like, we're gonna have to do 30 minutes and get out if it's going to be like a 1 a.m. show or a 12:30 show. But yeah, no, this actually ended. Thank you, Vince McMahon, for ending it at 11 o'clock. Um, anything else you wanted to add before we hop off here?
Looking forward to the reshuffled rosters that are starting this week. Backlash was sort of the cutoff date. The draft takes effect this week. So some of the people we saw on the pay-per-view tonight, we're going to see more of them on Raw going forward, allegedly, if the draft actually is a thing and matters. So farewell to guys like Gunter and Imperium and Sammy and KO as far as being regulars.
Gunther.
Farewell to maybe Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, unless they can, since they're unified champions with their belts. Maybe they can be on SmackDown. Farewell to a lot of big names. We can go through a litany of people that maybe this was our farewell for them. But on the other hand, welcome back Damage Control, especially Io Sky. Welcome Bianca Belair to SmackDown. If the match they put on today in this opener is any indication, I will enjoy watching them on SmackDown. Welcome Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory. I'd like to see you without some of these, escapism gimmicks. Uh, I will say, welcome back all of the Bloodline members now that there's some real tension and they're playing up the Bloodline storyline going forward. Is we the ones, or are we divided? We are not together as one.
We may not be the ones anymore.
I like this. This pay-per-view turns into not only an excellent event as a self-contained event, but it's a good pivot and gives us some things to anticipate as we get back to watching SmackDowns. Good job, sure. WWE. I liked it.
Yeah, and I laughed out loud today. So they're going to have one more pay-per-view here, and it's going to be the Clash of Champions.
Night of Champions.
Night of Champions?
In 3 weeks. It's only 3 weeks away, and it's in Saudi Arabia.
3 weeks away in Saudi Arabia. And I was like, ooh, why? Why is there another pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia, which is actually notoriously a terrible place to wrestle? Depending on the time of the year, too. I don't know what the weather is like. It can be up above 100 degrees on the ground. And
it's going to be hot.
So it gets so hot there that the crowd is just like dead.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they have the princes that sit in the. Have you seen some of the princes when they sit in the front?
I saw Crown Jewel in November, and I remember Sami Zayn not being allowed to travel there because he's Syrian. He's the wrong kind of Muslim heritage or something for the people in Saudi Arabia. Night of Champions. Are they going to get the belt off of Sami and Kevin Owens between now and May 27th? Or are they just not going to have that title defended? Or is Sami going to get allowed to go there?
They might not just defend that. They might not defend that belt. Maybe that's why they made that the new World Championship belt. And they realized, oh man, we need some more belts because Zayn can't defend either belt.
Yeah. So too bad. Anytime you're missing Sami Zayn on a pay-per-view, you're missing an A-level performer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
yeah. Anyways, that
will be fast moving. They've got to get that up and running. We'll have plenty to talk about this coming Friday after SmackDown.
Yeah.
But they've got to move quickly on some things they have in the works for Night of Champions, which will be the 1,000th day in the title reign of Roman Reigns. May 27th, 2023. Day number 1,000 in Roman Reigns' Universal WWE Championship reign.
Right.
And apparently it'll be day one for the new World Heavyweight Championship reign of whoever gets it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dom. I'm kind of giving you the Italian goodbye here, but we do have 2 viewers on. So, guys, any questions, hit us up in the comments, and we will respond to them as we do our Italian goodbye here, where we take our good old time.
We take our good old time getting to the door. Do we have any cheap heat? I think we kind of wove that into the recap here with some of the perhaps the elevation of some guys with either MMA backgrounds or amateur wrestling backgrounds. Now that WWE can't help but get the rub from the UFC as being a more legitimate kind of sports entertainment, the pro wrestling here. Is this a good send-off for some of these wrestlers from SmackDown or not? What did you think of the Puerto Rico crowd? Let us know in the comments wherever you're viewing from. Perhaps we'll answer them even if it's after the live stream.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts here. This was a fun show, and these podcasts are a lot of fun to do. Don't
Yeah.
bury the lead. We're having a great time.
Yes. So, we are Don't Bury the Lead. We are here live every Friday night after SmackDown. Uh, but then,
Unless there's a special event like tonight.
and God knows WWE hammers out some pay per views.
Right?
So we'll be live after this Saudi Arabia show as well. So yeah, we're here every Friday night. We recap SmackDown. We recap the shows on that are pay per views. We do little short videos as well, based off of like some of our conversations we had during our recaps. We just did one on Andy Kaufman. It's kind of a history of Andy Kaufman. That one's done pretty well. Most of our stuff is on YouTube. And if you're watching on Twitch right now, there's a link to go to our YouTube. Go there and subscribe. That's really helpful for us. And
Shorter videos also appear on TikTok.
that's true. We also are on TikTok. We are older than most people on TikTok, so we're trying to figure the whole thing out. But we don't want to leave anybody, um, you know, out of the picture here as far as the
Sure, we want to reach more people. Like Karrion Cross says, tip talk.
Carrying Cross and that horrible gimmick.
It's not just an awkward catchphrase. It's apparently a new video platform. And Don't Bury the Lead is on it.
Right. We're all over it. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining, Dom. Thanks for you guys for hanging in here. Have a great rest of your evening. And how do you say goodbye in Spanish?
Hola, adios.
Adios.